Hey everyone, today I'm in Google Colab and using a Python notebook in Google Colab. I was inspired a little bit by a little bit of what Weigert was doing on his live streams recently. He was messing around with coding in the terminal to print out and display and make art out of it, kind of in loops so that it continuously programmatically displays different text characters in an artistic way. So I wanted to give that a try here in Jupyter Notebooks. If you're not familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, it's basically running code in cells and also having text in cells so you can take notes. Hence the name notebook, I think. So it's like a notebook for your code, and it runs the code right under each cell. So it's really cool. So we're going to try to do some fun text, printing out text stuff in the terminal today. So I want to delete this cell. I hover over it and I come over the trash can. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty slick how the context menus pop up. There's one for code and text that will either in front of or below the cell that I'm currently have highlighted. If you have multiple cells, I don't think it needs to be highlighted. But anyway, it's really nice to be able to put text and code like anywhere in between cells. So I'm going to delete that. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to print characters. So we want to print them in random just because that's an easy way to mix things up. So I'm going to do some code and I'm going to import random. I just type that code in there and I can press Control Enter to run that code. So now random should be imported. It looks like it's taking a minute. I'm going to go down here and do some new code. And in this code, I want to assign a list to a variable. So I'm just going to call it n. And the reason that I want this list is because I'm going to use, it's an iterable that random can choose characters from. And I guess I want a space in there as well. Okay, so this is going to give us an error because we're using backslash here, which is also it's a special Python character that escapes the next character. So this parentheses right there is going to be escaped. So we are going to get these squiggly lines underneath telling us that there's something wrong with the syntax. And we do get an error with the string literal. It wants a closing. What is it? Quotation mark. All right, so we need to escape the escape character to make this work. I can press this X key to get rid of my output code. And I still have my original code, which is really nice. Let's escape the escape key. So I do a double slash. So it's going to escape the escape key and hopefully print out correctly. So to test this out, let me just say print n and Control Enter to run it. Okay, so I forgot to put a comma in here, so it only had 2 characters. And I also want a space in that third character. So I need to run that again. It is just the code needs to run to get into the Python memory. And let's try printing it again. And there we go. We have our 3 characters. It is interesting that it printed 2 escape characters. I mean, two backslashes. One is supposed to only print in 1. I gotta just test this real quick in a regular terminal on my computer to see if the behavior is the same. So if I want to print like an escape character, this is not going to work. This should give me an error. Oh, I need to open parentheses. Yeah, that gives me an error, which it's supposed to. And if I put a double parentheses in there, a double backslash, I get 1 slash, which is what I would expect. But for some reason in Jupyter Notebooks, I got 2 slash. I guess I could just try that. I'll try that same exact piece of code in Jupyter Notebooks. I don't think it should make a difference at all, whether it's in a list or just a string printed directly. So a single backslash is going to give us an error. So what I'm expecting is just 1 backslash. And it gives us 1 backslash. Oh, that's interesting. So it's because it's iterating through this list that it's giving us the 2. Gibber. Interesting. And when we just print it directly, we get the 1. Okay, well that's good to know for the future. I guess I'll keep those cells there because it's a little quirk of Python that I'm not sure why it's happening. All right, the other thing I want to try to do is, now that I have my list of chars, this short list of just 3 different characters, ASCII characters. I'm just going to call them chars for short. I want to multiply. So we can multiply a list of characters just by saying, let's say, 8 times. So we'll say 8 times n. So this should like show it 8 times. Control Enter to run the code. And it printed it. If I wanted it all in the same line, what could I do? I probably would print them in a different way. But what I really want to do now is I want to see if random works on this list, right? We imported random way at the beginning. Let's try random. So we know we can multiply by a number. What else can we do with n? We want to print random. So this is only gonna, it's gonna choose 1 out of the list of n. Control Enter, and it chooses a slash. Okay, now let's try printing a random choice and multiplying. Let's say we want to print out 8 instances of a random choice. Can we do it this way? So we can say t assigned to random choice. I need to use the correct assignment operator. So, and we need to pass in n as the thing that we're choosing from. Okay, so we can run that, and so now t has been a random choice. Now let's try multiplying t and see what happens. T times 8. Or can I just print it directly? T times, and I think I'm going to do a comma, end. This should make it all 1 line. Let's try that out. Okay, we got, I think the random choice was the blank space. Let's try it again. Random choice again, the blank space. Okay, so there's a problem here that when I assign random choice to t just stays that original choice. So we're actually not getting a random thing to print out. So if I rerun this, though, it should choose a different. Let's rerun the t random choice. This should get us a different character. It's not getting us a different character. There it is. Okay, it finally got a different character because I kept running it. So I want these all to be different. I want them all to be randomly chosen. This is just multiplying by 1 character. So I think what I need to do is make a for loop. So we'll make a for loop, I in range. We're going to say 100 characters. So what we're going to do is we're going to print out 100 characters. But we're using a for loop because each time through the loop, we want to, let's say we want to create a line. We actually need to declare that variable. We'll do that in just a second. And so we're doing plus equals to increment the line so that each instance through the loop, we're getting another character added to our line. And we want that character to be randomly chosen from our list n. And then we want to print the line, but we don't want to print in the for loop, so we have to unindent. It keeps automatically indenting for me, so I just want to print line. Okay, we need to correct some spelling here. So line has got the squiggly yellow marks underneath it because I never declared it. So I'm going to assign line to an empty string, and this is, I use my assignment operator, and then watch, now what I'm going to press, and I get that green check mark. Then I know that the variable line is stored in Python memory. Okay, so again, so what we're going to do is a for loop. It's going to loop 100 times, and each time it loops, it's going to add a random character from our list to the line variable. Then it's going to print it out. And there we have our random list of characters. Super cool. The next thing I want to do is I want these to print out, to continuously print out and have line breaks. so that it'll create some kind of two-dimensional, so multi-lines. We want to print multi-lines. Now that we have our random characters in a line, and we want each line to be random characters, different from the previous line. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a function that we're going to put this for loop inside a function, because we want to print this line out multiple times. So if we put it in a function, we can call it multiple times. We can call the function. So yeah, functions are great for code that you want to repeat over and over again. So we're going to define a function. We're going to call it make line. And we're going to assign the line to an empty string, just like we did above. And then we're going to have a for loop, the same exact for loop exactly as above. Pretty much. Yeah, it is. We're going to increment the line by random choice from our list. And we're not going to print the line this time. This is the one small difference. We're going to return the line. So the output of make is not going to be a print statement. It's going to be the actual line, and then we can print it later. So to do that, we don't want to return in that for loop, because that would return like each time. We only want it to return once. So we're going to return the line. This is the output of this function, is going to be the line. So each time we call this function, it's going to run random choice, so we're going to get a random line each time. Okay, so let's run that, and nothing happens because we didn't call it. So next what we might want to do is, let's try printing it out. So we're going to print make line. You need to remember to put the parentheses on the end, because that's how it gets called, and then Control Enter to run the code. And it works. And we're going to do this in a for loop. So I want to try to get it to continuously print 100 times. So for I in range 100, for iteration, I think of it as like an iteration, print in the loop. Oh, these context-sensitive help is not helping me. It's blocking my code. I got to figure out how to turn that off. Okay, we're printing make line, and we're calling it. And what I expect to happen is 100 lines get printed. Oh, cool! It did it. It printed 100 lines of slashes and spaces. Okay, I kind of want it to do it one at a time, though. Not all in one big splash. So I might have to import another module called time. Let's do that. Import time, and then we can space out, let's run it. We can space out the timing of the print statements. So now let's try it. Let's see if that gives us a different effect. So another code block, and I'm going to do that same for loop, except I'm going to the same one as above, where we stick our print make line. Except what I'm going to do different this time actually is after we print a line, I'm going to ask it to rest, and we do that with time sleep. Let's rest for like half a second. I'm not sure if that's exactly a second. It might have to do with the refresh rate of your screen. Okay, so let's run this and see if that worked. It worked. Cool. So there's some hesitation before it prints the next line, so that's kind of cool. And it's going to print 100 of these and going to fill up the screen. Cool. So it's some random key line art / art with spaces. I'm going to stop that because I want to move on to something else. We got a squiggly line under our time.sleep. Let's see why that is. This is at the indentation level. Oh, keyboard interrupt. Okay. So there's no issue with that code, but I interrupted before this code was finished running, and that's the error. I guess that's an error it gave. That's kind of confusing. There's not an error here. The next thing I want to try to do is print one character at a time. So right now we're printing one line at a time. What if we could print one character at a time? So let's try out some code to test this out to see if this would work. So let's say we make a new variable and we call it string, and it's going to be hello world, and we're going to do a for loop, and we're going to say for character in the string, for each character in the string, print the character, and then we're going to put at the end an empty string. So that way the end of the line is not going to be a new line, it's going to be an empty string. So this way it will just print across rather than down. Time, and if that doesn't make sense, I'll demonstrate. Time.sleep 5. Okay, so that's probably going to be kind of slow, but let's see how that works. So cool. Yeah, it's like someone's typing to us, hello world. Okay, so if I did like some other character here, like say the slash, I think this will print it. Oh, that prints it. It just prints the slash. Let's do, what is the escape? New line. We can do a new line. The incorrect syntax. That's not what I want. Where's the end? I think the end. The end is, or maybe it's the other slash. I'm going to try all these until I can remember what it is. It's not. Yeah, maybe that's it. Is that the new line? Either it's not working or I forget. I'm pretty sure it's the \n. There, yeah. I don't know why I must have not typed it right. Okay, so this is putting the \n at the end of each character, so we're printing downwards. And then when we don't put anything at the end, we left to right. Okay, so we know that this little code snippet works for printing a character at a time with time.sleep. What if we wanted to put it all together and make like our line art print out one at a time? I'm not sure if because we're in a browser, the refresh rate is different than your actual machine. So I'm not sure how this is going to work out, depending on, we might not be able to, it might come out really slow. Let's try it. Okay, so what we're going to do, how we're going to do this, in this final part of this video tutorial, we're going to try to print both the characters randomly in a line and lines randomly as we go. So we want to print left to right, and we want the lines to print from top to bottom so that they continuously print out and give us an interesting pattern. So first we're gonna add another code block or code cell. And what we want to do is we want to create another for loop. So we're going to say for I in range, let's say 10. And then we're going to make a variable, and we'll call it line B. And this is going to equal our previous function that we created called make line. And then we're going to do a nested for loop. So we're going to put this for loop inside our first for loop, and we're going to say for char in string, we're going to print the char, and at the end, we're going to put an empty space to make sure that we have a new line. And then we're going to give it some time. We might have to play with this time a little bit. Let's say 2.25 for now, but depending on how the screen refresh rate works out with our browser, we might have to change that. And then at the end, we're going to print another new line, and we'll put a little note that this reminds us that this makes a new line. Okay, I'm just going to correct some of my typos here. Let's see, we have a little typo here. The squiggly line shows us that we have a little typo. And that's because we need an equal sign so that our end is equal to a space. Okay, we need to make sure that time is imported. I'm going to go double check that. And let's see, what else do we want to make sure? We need to make sure that make line is imported because we're using that. Let's scroll up to the top. Yeah, import random is got a green check on the left, so we know that that's imported. And our function for making our line is ready to go. Okay, so let's play this and see what happens. Okay, we do have an error. N is not defined. So that might be, N might be something in our make line. No, yes, it is. A random choice. So maybe let's check. So this is just something about Google Colab. During the making of this video, I refreshed or I opened the page brand new again that we have been working on, and we need to make sure that everything is re-imported into the session. So that's where we define N right there. So that was why we were getting the error. So we're going to import that and go back down. And so N should be defined now. So that was our main error. N should be defined. Looks like there might be another error here, or this might be just the part of the traceback. I think this is part of the traceback. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that again. Now we have string is not defined. Let's see. Right, so here we have string is equal to hello world. So my error here was I needed to have this line B. Line B is the variable that we want to put here, not string. So, because line B gives us our randomly made line. So for I in range 10, so for 10 times, we're going to make a new line. And then for each line, we're going to print out the character. Okay, let's try that again and see if we've got everything working. And there we go. It's printing out our characters one at a time. But that's pretty slow. Let's stop that and let's speed it up to, I probably won't be able to speed it up very fast because there's the maximum that our browser is going to be working at. Let's try it at 0.125. Okay, that's a little bit faster. That's still pretty slow. Let's try. So it's just giving us this keyboard interrupt. That's because I stopped it from running because I want to try speeding it up 10 times faster. Okay, so it's not going to a new line. So we have an error in our code. We need to debug that. And it looks like our print statement for our new line should be within the first, indented within the first for loop. And that's what's giving us the error. So we'll tab that and press play. Now we should have our new lines. Okay, that's a little bit more interesting to watch. All right, so we could, if we wanted this to go, so this printed 10 times because our for loop is printing out range 10. We could, of course, increase that. Let's go back and compare that once more and see what effect we like better. I mean, this is just art here. We're just messing around, playing around to see what kind of patterns. And, we could take this a lot further, of course, and maybe try to program the way these slashes come out instead of just using random to maybe make the patterns a little bit more geometric. But let's go back and do our other little script where we just, instead of character by character, I want to compare what it looks like running line by line instead of character by character. So let's see if we can find that. It's probably this one here. So for I in range 100, print make line. So this is going to print 100 lines. Let's make that 10 so it's a more equivalent. Let's run that. Okay, 10 at a time. Yeah, I'm not sure which method I like better, the character at a time or the line at a time. Let's look at the character at a time once more. So this would be interesting to do right on the terminal, and maybe we'll do that in another video because I think these will print out faster. It might look better doing it on a terminal on your local machine rather than through the web. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you got something out of it. See you next time.